The Sober Pod is proudly sponsored by Axioms Health, the first of its kind where treatment from drug and alcohol addiction is brought to you in your home. It's a full customizable treatment plan that includes medical care, individual counseling, family therapy, acupuncture, and peer support recovery, to name a few. For more information, visit us at axiomshealth.com. And on to the show.
It might not work or something. Like, why is it priced so low?
I have a question.
I just don't know the barometer market. I don't know how much. What's your question?
What's a barometer?
It tells you the air pressure.
I knew you were going to ask that.
The atmospheric pressure.
Yeah, it reads atmospheric
Pressure.
Pressure, yeah. Exactly what Katie just said.
Allegedly.
The higher the pressure, the clearer the
Barometer. Higher the pressure, the
day. She
clearer
went
the day.
to, regardless of the temperature.
The Sober Pod. The Sober Pod. The Sober Pod. The Sober Pod. Call your sponsor. Call your brother. Call your mother. Show starting in 4, 3, 2, 1.
Woo!
Good evening.
We're back.
Welcome.
Oh yeah.
Take two.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties resolved.
Hey, do they still do this thing where they, like, remember back in the day in the movies, they go take two?
Yeah.
You know, those,
The
like,
snap.
They
the
do.
snap. What do they
It's
call
called
that?
slating.
Yes.
Is that really what it's called?
That's what it's
It
called.
is.
That's pretty brilliant.
Because when you're editing film, you see the slate in front
And-
of the thing. It lets you know, and you can sync up. You can
Right.
sync up the audio to
Right.
the video.
And on radio or on podcasts, what you do is you clap 3 times. But every
3
time I
times.
do it on the podcast, I just get.
I think you invented that.
I
Sam.
did not invent that.
That's called the Sammer method.
I heard that on other podcasts, and I try to emulate it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they just like
We're
run
not on
over
that-
me when I do it.
Yeah, we're
Like
not-
so.
No, you do it louder than that. Come on.
Yeah, you do it way
Come on,
louder.
give it
Yeah,
a
but,
little.
but that was the
You don't do it
example
like
of them
that.
talking over it. Kick my-
See, every time you've done it, it's like a.
No, I take my time with it.
Oh.
Moments of silence between each one.
Oh,
We are your hosts. I'm Sam.
Devin.
And Chris.
We have special guests tonight.
I'm Bethany.
Yeah.
I'm Katie.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
Yes.
We love these guys.
So good.
We
So
are
excited to
honored.
have you. Yeah.
Honored to have you on.
Welcome to the lair, the windowless. Well, we have. Well, I guess never
We
mind.
have
It's not-
windows to other windowless places.
I guess the windowless to the outside world room.
Yeah.
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 So that's windows.
It's all about sound in here.
Yeah.
Really isn't visual at all.
It's about sound. Yeah.
It's just what the sound is.
It's about atmospheric pressure changes in here.
The barometer, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
You know, I was gonna buy a barometer at this like antique store in Greensboro, North Carolina, for $16, but I just don't know that much about barometers.
Yeah.
So I felt like it might not work or something. Like, why is it priced so low?
I have a
first thing?
question.
I just don't know the barometer market. I don't know how much. What's your question?
What's a barometer?
It tells you the air
I
pressure.
knew you were going to ask that.
The atmospheric pressure.
Yeah, it reads atmospheric.
Pressure.
Oh,
Pressure,
my watch
yeah.
has it,
Exactly what
or
Katie just said.
Allegedly.
The
Yeah.
higher the pressure, the clearer the day.
The barometer. Okay.
Yeah.
The higher the pressure, the
She
clearer the
went
day.
to, regardless of the temperature.
went
Do
to
you,
Right.
are you like? Isn't that like a?
For-
don't pilots know about that?
Probably.
They have to.
We could
Meteorologists.
ask our
Look, I have
pilot
an
friend.
She went
Alti
to meteorology school
barometer
Are you
here.
Oh,
serious?
really?
for a whole semester. Yeah.
That's a
So
long
she
time
knew.
though. A semester's what? 3 months?
3.5.
Yeah. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
time.
It is.
Katie, what does this
And it's
mean?
all meteorology classes.
Almost. Yeah. I think there were some
That's
like
so
prereqs in
incredible.
there.
I was just talking to someone about the art of meteorology the other day.
Art.
It's amazing.
It's difficult.
It's
you know,
difficult. You wanted to chase tornadoes. Yeah, and there was one that was headed right for our dorm the first year I got there.
And then you're like, I quit this.
No, I was just like, oh God.
How interesting.
Oh, all right.
I'm out of here.
See ya.
I would have taken that as a sign from God. Like,
I didn't believe in God at that point, though.
oh, okay.
Yeah. It was before, I saw the light.
Yeah. When you were drinking, I presume? No?
Was this in Kansas or something?
It was in Iowa.
Oh, yeah. Love me some Iowa.
Sammer has a good Iowa story.
Holy shit. Or is it? Listen to me.
Are you from
Yeah.
Iowa? Are you from Iowa?
No.
All right, let me just sort of explain the podcast here. The Sober Pod is people in recovery. We utilize this platform, the podcast platform, to dive deep into topics about recovery. Sometimes the topics may be discussed at meetings. Sometimes they're not. We like to think that even if you do hear a topic discussed at a meeting, we can dive in just a little bit more because we can ask questions, we can get answers. From those answers, we can ask more questions. And you can't really do that at a meeting. So we like to think that we go a little bit deeper than someone that shares their story at a meeting. And we like to talk about stuff that just comes up in general that may come up in our minds that isn't necessarily asked about or shared about at meetings for whatever reason. What's an example of that?
Well, an example would be like, in meetings, when somebody tells their story, in the meetings I'm thinking about, somebody tells their story and then immediately afterwards there are shares on whether you're related to the person or not, or if there's a topic, you sort of share on that topic. But I've never seen a format where there's Q&A and you go in depth on a certain, on a certain theme or a certain topic that this speaker gives. For example, coming into recovery and realizing that I had to obtain a higher power, and then, okay, so that's awesome, and people do share about that. But then what this podcast would do is sort of dig deep on the process that person took for them to either get there or not get there. And what did that feel like? What was the process like? So we came up with this idea of having a podcast just so we could dig deep, really,
Yeah.
in any sort of, in any type of recovery. It doesn't have to be from alcoholism or drugs only, but this is, I think, mostly what we'll see.
Yep.
Because of how we got sober.
We're all sober in this room right now. We're all sober from some sort of substance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking on the way here about gambling the other day, and I thought, if I was to go to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting or some sort of,
Support
therapy, support group or therapy given to gamblers, like I would be so amazed and interested in the process of the brain, like a gambler's brain, so to speak. How do they get, what is the obsession to gamble like? Because I can easily dismiss it as, well, it's the same as an obsession to use, but I don't think it is. I think it's a little different, and
And
so
like what it
these are
what it
examples like
means
that.
to be sober, right, from gambling. Does it mean just not, like we say sober in recovery from substance use,
Right.
and we don't necessarily mean just putting the plug in the jug and not drinking. Right?
Exactly.
We mean there's certain behaviors that go along with being in recovery. So what does that mean for someone in GA or
Yeah.
any other addiction? I think it'd be amazing to have someone on.
And we want you guys to write us. We
Yeah.
we want to give you the email. We are thesoberpod@gmail.com.
Boom.
Write us about what you guys think.
Write us. We need it.
Shout out to emails.
We need it.
Shout out to the electronic mail system developed in the 1980s.
Send us your shout outs.
Yeah.
If you have somebody celebrating that you want to send a love note to or whatever it is, please let us know.
Yeah.
We'd love to put it out in the airs.
We really love shout outs. We're trying to bring them back.
Yeah.
Every week.
Well, except when the shout outs start becoming to, emails and couches and microphones. We want real shout outs.
We want real ones.
You'll get there. Have a little faith.
Devin will literally shout out anything. You'll hear. Yeah.
You'll hear it.
I think he shouted out to Zoloft last week.
No, Zyprexa.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. Antipsychotic.
Nice.
I remember.
Yeah, did a number on me. Shout out.
Shout out. Shout out, baby.
Shout out's
Oh,
not
yeah.
not having memories.
We are excited to bring you ladies. on this podcast.
Yeah, you guys are the first ladies to be on the podcast.
Wow.
Well, the first
ladies.
the first couple, the first
Yeah.
duo,
Yep.
and the
Right.
first females.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's what you
You
meant.
guys-
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
We're the first.
So
Yeah.
there are a lot of
Yeah.
firsts here.
Yeah, this is great. We're very excited.
Very
I'm
excited.
so nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, don't be. Yeah. Beth, are you nervous?
No.
Hell yeah. I love it.
We're both a little sleepy.
I am now that you say it.
Hey,
I
where,
don't know what kind of questions.
where'd
No
you
pressure to
guys-
ask.
Where
You're the
did you guys
first.
come from?
My mom and dad,
Okay.
Michigan.
Michigan.
A test tube.
When?
When?
Yeah. When did you guys come to Northern Virginia?
Oh, 2 years ago.
It's been a couple of years?
Yeah, 2 years.
2.5. Yeah.
Yep. Katie got a
June.
job.
26th. 2016.
So Katie got a job,
Yeah.
and you guys decided to move here.
Yep.
You know, I feel like 99% of
Career
people
job.
that live in this area
Career
move here because of a job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of them around.
A lot of jobs.
A lot to be
Yeah.
had.
What had happened though is that Bethany graduated, I graduated,
We got married.
and then graduated again, and then I finished my thesis, and then we got married, and then we had a huge picnic. Like we got married and had a huge going away party picnic in the same month, and then we moved here.
Wow.
Also in the same month.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of changes right there.
Yes.
Dang. How'd the picnic go?
It was nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, one of our friends brought a root beer keg.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That sounds amazing.
It was,
Yeah.
it was
Because you guys grew up in
Another
Michigan.
friend
Yeah.
was on the grill, and yeah, it was a really good turnout.
Wow.
It was fun.
Was it hard leaving Michigan coming here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I cried a lot.
Yeah.
So you guys were leaving everything in Michigan to come here? Family, friends? Or,
Yeah.
Well, that's not easy.
No.
Did you know anyone here?
Just each other.
Wow.
Well, that's not true. My sponsor got sober here in this
Okay.
area, and then moved to Michigan, where I met her, and then taught me about a sobriety I wanted, and then she hooked us up with people here because she was like, "Oh, Reston's close to all this area," and then hooked us up with people who showed us to different meetings and stuff around here.
Okay.
So
I don't-
technically not really knowing any people, but being connected to people. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know which I love more. Your sponsor giving you like numbers to call, or you actually calling those numbers. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Like that's not that doesn't normally happen. You know, for people that you guys have to push each other to do it. Like, hey, did you want to isolate when you first came, or were you just like,
Oh, I
come on,
probably
let's just
would have,
go?
definitely. I think
Beth,
Katie's
you
a
would've?
big
Yeah.
pusher. I'm like,
Yeah, I would agree.
come on, honey, let's do this. I'm like, oh,
I like
this
to
Netflix show
initiate.
is really good.
I initiate a lot of like events,
Yeah.
unless they have to do with board games. And Bethany initiates those.
But
Yeah,
in the
love
beginning,
those.
Yeah.
you know, I didn't have a job in the beginning. So,
Man, it seems like
Yeah, it was
longer than
interesting.
2 years. We were talking about it the other night.
Yeah.
I was like, man, it feels like
yeah.
that's cool though. So, where did you guys met in school? No.
No. We tell people through mutual friends.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Bethany came up to me and was like, "What'd you say? Will you be my sponsor?
Yeah.
Will you write this number down?"
Oh, that's how that went.
No, I
Oh.
saw her at
Plot
my,
thickens, Deb.
Wow.
I think it was my second week sober. And I was 2 weeks sober. And I sat down in my third meeting outside of detox. And and I was like, who's that? To the girls that I was sitting with. And the girls said, oh, that's Katie. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, no, she has a girlfriend. And I'm like, who's,
Wait
and they
see.
showed
We'll see
me,
about that.
and I was like, and so I was like, well, I need a sponsor. So I
You
couldn't
need
write
one.
her name down because I was shaking so bad. So I had to go up to her and say, can you write your name down? Can I
Oh
be?
my God. What,
Can you be my sponsor?
what were you getting sober from, Beth? What were you detoxing from?
Alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I was a drug addict for a
Nice.
long time. And then I had this girlfriend, and she's like, I don't want to date you because you do drugs. So I stopped doing drugs, and I drank like I did drugs every single day.
Just like that, stopped it.
Yep.
What drugs were you doing?
Yeah.
Well, when I was younger, I did the marijuana, and then
The marijuana.
yeah, like throughout my whole, I did marijuana. I was considered a pothead, and then I did cocaine my senior year, 11th grade of high school, and then I got off that, and then I did heroin, and then got off that, and then, did weed and cocaine here and there, but mostly just weed.
Recreationally.
And, I drank too, with all those things.
All throughout.
Yeah. And then, yeah. And then
Amazing.
my boss, actually, she didn't want to date me because I did drugs. So I quit doing.
So I'm gonna. But now that I'm an alcoholic,
Yeah.
we can get it on.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Because she was.
She was more accepting of that.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you asked Miss Katie to be your sponsor. Katie, how much time did you have, Miss?
I probably had almost 2 years. I think.
Almost 2 years. She asked you to be your sponsor. Were you like, what's up, what's up, what's up?
I was when I first saw her.
Yeah.
So I tried to be really good about this whole situation because I don't know if you guys have met me, but I take pride in like doing the right thing. But
It's a
when-
very admirable trait of yours.
Thank you. I can take it way too far though, as my sponsor loves to point out, which is good. I need that. But no, I saw Bethany across the room, and I was like, oh, who's that? She's got a really nice smile, because I couldn't see her eyes because she always wore her hats like right over her eyes all the time, and would like look down, and I was like, oh, who is that? And then I lost focus because I'd jump around like a monkey or butterfly, and then the meeting started, and then at the end, here comes Bethany walking up, and she's like, oh, will you be my sponsor? And at this point I'm just like, yes, you say yes to these things, yes. And so I pushed down any feelings I had, pushed them right down, and was just like, oh, sure, yep. And that's pretty much
And you
what
set off to
started
do
it.
the right thing. You
Yeah.
weren't like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in your pants immediately after this. You weren't like that. I mean, I'm serious.
No. I don't
see
You
Katie
wanted
being
to
like
do
that. Yeah, I don't see her
see
doing
Katie
that.
being.
Oh goodness,
So-
I was definitely like that.
Oh yeah.
At 2
Sobriety-
years.
At 2 years.
At 2 years.
With a newcomer?
I was
Okay.
I was a lot of things. Sobriety has changed me over the
If you
years.
think
I'll just
about
say
it,
that.
Chris, 2 years is kind of like, most of us are still pretty toxic and.
Dude, 2 years?
You know what I
I'm a
mean?
mess.
Yeah.
I
But,
was
yeah.
in one of the sickest relationships, like the sickest relationship I've ever been in.
Shout
At
outs
that
to sick
time.
Relationships.
So yeah, shout
There
out.
it is.
A special shout out to all sick relationships out there.
We've all had them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. They're great. Just great.
I had a question for you really quick. I just thought of this. So we talk about men sticking with men and women sticking with women in the rooms, right? Always. Like when they come in.
Yeah.
So where does that leave us with gay couples?
Yeah, tell me
like
about it.
gay people.
Yeah.
Like I just thought about this. So there's an attraction. I mean, we preach that shit in the rooms everywhere, and it makes sense to me. I don't think getting sober for me, I would have ever. Let me rephrase. Last time I got serious to get sober, started following directions, not in any way, shape, or form I would have gotten a female to be my sponsor. So, long-winded way of saying, what do you guys think about that?
And what is the deal with that?
I've sponsored a guy before, and you just have to check your motives. And I talked to my sponsor before I said yes to this guy, and my sponsor said, "Yeah, just check your motives and pray about it, and see if you're, for it in the right reason." And he's in it for the right reason. And I asked him, why would you want me to be your sponsor? And he's like, because I like what you have, what you have to offer, and I can relate a lot to you. And I was just like, okay. It wasn't like, oh, I think you're hot, it was, him and I worked really well together, I think.
Yeah.
Him being my sponsee. And for a while, when I backtrack a little bit, when I was in the 3/4 house, because when I met Katie, I was in a 3/4 house.
One step above a halfway
Halfway.
house, I'm
Yeah,
guessing. Okay.
yeah, that's what they told me.
Quarter step.
We don't have them
quarter
here.
step, a
Yeah,
little bit better.
three-quarter house.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's a
pretty cool.
sober living environment. It was with like 7 women. It was locked down. It was really strict. But anyway, but for a while after I was in there for maybe, I don't know, 5 months or so. I was in there for 14 months. But as I was in there for like 5 months, they said, I don't want you to talk to anyone unless they're straight women. Because I didn't have boundaries. So,
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
That's a
because
good point. Absolutely. Yeah.
the sober women, we couldn't talk to men because we got fines if we even spoke to men. Yeah.
Jeez.
Really?
Yeah, it
It
was
was
very
What was the
strict.
fine?
I don't remember. I've never gotten a fine.
So
Yeah.
You're
Wait,
looking at
you
his
speak
relevant,
to any guy?
Any
Or
guy.
in
Yeah.
the rooms?
just in general?
Outside of the rooms.
Outside.
Like if you're in a meeting,
Oh.
it's different. But when you're outside of the room fraternizing, that's no.
That's
Got your checkbook on.
Yeah, right?
Give me a 20.
Yeah. But anyway, mine was I couldn't talk to.
Yeah.
I could only talk to straight. So.
So going back to the sponsorship thing. So Katie sponsored you, right? Katie, you sponsored Bethany.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So and then you got married. Like I want to know what happened in between. Like
Yeah.
Well,
how did you guys grow in that relationship, or what happened?
so the relationship had to change, and I talked to my sponsor. So I'm like still stuck on your like women sticking with women.
Yeah.
dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to hear about
Yeah,
that.
I want to hear.
Question.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
I was
Okay,
going to
go
go on the
for
same
that
thing.
first.
Cool, 'cause
Go for that first.
my brain's not gonna be able to move on. So I had a similar. I had an experience that's maybe a little bit different than Bethany's, because when people told me to stick with the women, I was just like, no, that's not happening. Also, like I want to date all the women, so that's not.
Right.
So when I asked someone about it and they didn't just keep saying like stick with the women, with the women, like when they would when people would explain what these cliches or what these like little sayings meant, they would be like, no, women are mirrors. You need to hang out with women who don't want anything from you except your own sobriety. Like they want more for you than you want for yourself. And because honestly, like I was still okay with using men. And that doesn't necessarily mean for sex. It just meant for like I could manipulate men way more easily than I could manipulate women who were trying to get sober.
Based on the sole fact that you're a woman.
Yeah.
That's how you could manipulate men. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it also forced me to reach out to women, which was like one of the most uncomfortable things that I had ever done. Because one, I didn't have any like liquid courage. And two, I wasn't reaching out to women for sex. I was reaching out for vulnerability and like reaching out to be like, hey, can you help me?
Would
And
you
that
give
was
them?
nothing I'd ever done.
Would you do a little preamble before it's like, look, here's the deal. I'm gay, and would you give them the preamble, or would you just be like, just reach out to the women and talk to them like they're just yeah.
Yeah, I would just talk to I talked to my sponsor at the time, and I was like, look, I'm gay. Like, why can't I hang out with men? And she's like, because women are mirrors. And as soon as someone said that, I was like, oh, it makes sense.
So were women mirrors to you when you came in the rooms? Like you
Yeah, they
like
still
mirrors
are.
yeah.
Yeah, like I am very surprised at how many friends I have today who are women, because I did not see my life like this like 10, 11 years ago. Like I had mostly dude friends.
Yeah.
Was it confusing getting sober? Like in like the literature and the people around you and getting sober in Michigan, was it confusing getting sober gay?
I don't think it was confusing.
There's a lot of people
For me.
around that were gay.
I didn't
went to a
necessarily
lot of
like
gay readings.
some like I had to read the stories in the back of the book before I was like, these are a bunch of like straight white guys talking about like I'm white, so it's not really that big of a deal. Like that's not a difference. But they were straight men from the 1930s,
Right.
And I was like, this is not my life.
Right.
You know, like I don't want whatever you have this thing about. I don't want to be part of this. I'm not part of your group. Get me out of your group. and then I would read the stories in the back. I was really angry when I came in.
Yeah.
And I would, that's not apparent. But I would read the stories in the back of the book and relate that way and just be like, okay, yeah, I can
Because
relate
you
to that.
focused on the feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't know if this go, but we can all, we could all relate out, and like all of us could relate out in some way or another to anyone, right? But I was curious about, like, what is the, I don't know if you want to say quote unquote right, but the healthy stance to take when someone who's attracted to the same sex and they're looking for a sponsor, what are they looking for, and like what are the boundaries to keep, and how do you go about doing that?
I mean, what I learned from my sponsor and because I want an equation for everything.
Yeah.
And my sponsor is just like, Katie, you don't get that. Like, there's one equation, it's on page 84 or 85. Like, go find it. And it's a bunch of words that make up an equation. And it's like,
Right.
when you feel like this, you do this. Anyway, she's like, that's the only equation you have.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, there's no hard and fast rule.
Okay.
And so any situation is different. I mean, if you're
Okay.
someone new looking for a same-sex sponsor and you're attracted to the same sex, then, like, you're either going to do the right thing or the wrong thing. But, like, what you're new. What are you
Okay.
going to do? If you want to get sober, you're going to get sober. If you
Right.
don't, you're not. And it doesn't
Okay.
matter what you do.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Okay.
plenty of us, I think, were given, like, terrible advice when we first got sober, but we're here because we found where we needed to go.
Right. Or got good advice and didn't take it.
Right.
Yeah. We all make mistakes.
You know, even when I found my first sponsor, you know, I was told to get somebody that you want what they have.
Yeah.
So I literally got somebody that I wanted what they had.
Beautiful.
But I learned a lot from her, and it was a very healthy sponsor relationship. Yes, I did think she was nice looking, and
I wasn't very
but
nice.
it was very healthy.
Yeah.
You know, it
So
was
there
a
were
very,
boundaries being kept at
Absolutely,
first. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There were boundaries kept throughout the whole time.
Yeah.
And that gets more into your question of, like, we kept boundaries the whole time, but I was having feelings for her that I was pushing down, so I was unable to really be as vulnerable, raw, and honest as I would be with any other sponsee.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that would
Wow.
confuse everything. 100%.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Right.
isn't that's interesting though?
Therapist.
Like, it's like it's funny how the sponsor-sponsee relationship is sometimes, or maybe most times, more intimate than someone that you date, especially at first, right? You don't want to like,
Right. You don't want to just spew it all out. Here's all my shit.
Here's all my
Right.
crazy.
Here you go. Yeah. Here's the crazy right here.
but with
at
the
bottom.
sponsee,
Yeah,
you're
like,
giving it boom,
Yeah.
yeah.
But dating, you're like, well, I gotta look cool.
right.
I've overcome some things that
Well, baby
pretty
steps.
chill, though.
I fought some
Baby
wars.
steps.
Yeah, that's
I've won
kind of
some
what I
wars.
did. I did
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 different sponsor, 1, 2, 3 different sponsor. Mm-hmm. That's what I was.
Yeah.
We had another guest earlier that said he did the 1, 2, 3 shuffle too. So it's been coming up recently.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Fourth steps of bear.
What? I was gonna ask, like, were you gonna ask about the transition into, like,
Oh,
what? Yeah, I would like to hear about that. The transition into being in a relationship from
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so Bethany had gotten a year, and I think we were talking at one point, and it was at the end of the conversation, and I was just like, all right, well, you know, is there anything else that's going on? And I just heard this, like, long pause on the other end of the phone, and I was like, oh, shit.
Nice,
I remember
Bethany.
being in a store, and I was, like, gonna go look at watches or, like, try something on, and so I needed to get off the phone. But I heard this long pause, and I was just like, okay. She's like, yeah. Remember that time, like 6 months ago or so, when I told you why I asked you to be my sponsor? I was like, uh-huh. She was like, well, I thought those feelings had gone away, but they actually grew. So I was like, okay.
Good job, Beth.
Well, thanks for telling me. I don't know that I can be your sponsor anymore, but I will sponsor you until you find someone else. And so she found another sponsor.
Did you tell her which pages to read in the big book?
No, I didn't. But a couple days later, or a couple weeks later, I was at work and I was like, are we allowed to swear on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
I was like, motherfucker. I think I have feelings for this girl. Because it was like very foreign. I wasn't like obsessing about her. It was, you know, it wasn't this like sick thing. Like I had gotten out of the relationship that I was in before. And so I was like healing from
like 6 months ago, maybe.
6 months before
probably
that.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I had left
Still
that
reeling from,
relationship. Yeah, and like it was really unhealthy, and regardless of what the other person did, like I was unhealthy enough to be in that relationship
Yeah.
when I was sober.
Yeah.
And I had to call my sponsor, and I was like, I think I like Bethany. I feel
Is your sponsor,
so
was
yeah.
your sponsor straight?
Yeah, she
Okay,
is.
okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just like, I think I like Bethany. And I left her a message, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Is this real? Is this real right now?
Right.
Like I'm calling my sponsor. I'm like, oh, I want to be in a relationship after getting
With
out
my
of one.
sponsee, nevertheless.
Right?
Yeah,
I'm
perfect.
just like, whatever. I got to be honest. And so we just had a conversation, and she's like, you're going to have to learn if Bethany still has feelings for you and you feel like you have feelings for her, you guys are going to have to learn how to be on a different basis of a relationship. Like Bethany is going to have to learn how to be able to say no to you, and you're going to have to deal with her having her very own opinions and not taking anything you say, like
Wow.
not doing anything you say, and you're going to have to like learn how to be equals again.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
not to say that like sponsors and sponsees are unequal, but like there's definitely like a hierarchy of like, I'm the sponsee, I ask you questions,
There is.
and you know,
100%.
it's a very different relationship, but yeah, we had to forge that relationship. That was not easy.
Yeah, Katie being my sponsor used to hang up on me sometimes because
Right.
I wouldn't talk about
Bitch, it ain't
recovery. I'd
happening
talk
now.
about, hi, what are you doing? I'm hanging my clothes. You remember that?
Yeah.
She'd
didn't
hang up on
realize-
me.
I
She'd
didn't
hang up
realize I
on you.
hung
She
up.
didn't want to hear about your day.
No.
She's like, look, pal. Click.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't
We're
want to
not,
hear
I'm not
about
here
your-
to be friends with you.
Right. Man, I did not think about the transition
Yeah.
when
Oh
I
my
met you
God, that's
guys.
wild.
And I immediately knew, like, I met Katie and Beth, and you guys were so open about it. I loved it. You know what I mean? Like, I was asking you about your marriage and stuff, and you told me she used to be my sponsee, like, very much in passing and whatever. We didn't focus on it, but man, there's
Yeah.
like this level of we need to am I saying the right word? Collaborate? Is that what it is? Like
Strategize almost.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like there's got to be an equilibrium now that we
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
have before because of
Yeah.
that hierarchy that you're talking about, which is very true.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to be my guru anymore. You're not going
Right.
to be. Now, Katie, were you able to stop telling her what to do in the first couple of months?
Probably not. She can probably tell you it better. Are you shaking your head?
Beth is like, she still tells me.
My nature
Still
is kind
telling you
of
what
like
to do.
a demanding one. So Bethany is really good at like just being like, okay, whatever
Okay,
you say.
honey.
I think maybe you need a sandwich, or like you just need to take a nap or something.
Yeah, we don't really on this podcast care much about time, but I must say, just for the listeners, that you guys have time. Like we're not talking to you with like 2 years sobriety or like whatever. Like these are two individuals with a lot of like with significant time and significant recovery. So
Double digits, right?
is it double digits for yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. You know what I mean? Like it's I think, and I didn't expect this coming in here tonight, but like if somebody's listening and going through something similar or is in a similar situation, this is gold. Because you don't get to see that.
No.
Like we've been around for long, you know what I mean? And we don't like I even wanted to ask you guys if you think AA was gay friendly, and I feel ridiculous sort of asking it, and I don't really know whether I want to ask it, but like
That's fair.
this is what I came in here tonight sort of thinking like I want to know what it felt like fucking sitting in a meeting
Yeah.
and realizing like I'm different in this way, I'm different in that way, and here's what it is. Because I know a little bit about you guys' stories, and I know family was not easy to deal with, and I know coming out is usually not the simplest thing to go through in adolescence or adulthood. I mean, regardless of when it is, it's tough shit. You know what I mean?
Pretty life altering.
So you're talking about like, I mean, yeah, we all have issues, and I'm sorry to call it an issue, but stuff. You know what I mean? Like we all have stuff, and this is something that I'll be interested in because I have no idea what that feels like or what it's like. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's really cool what you guys bring. Experience, strength, and hope from,
I think the funny thing is that in Northern Virginia where we live, I interact with fewer gay people on a daily basis than we ever did in Michigan. Like I sat in meetings with way more gay people than we do now.
really.
But we were also in 2 college towns.
Okay, so
Oh,
I think
that's
that
true.
had something to do
where in
with
Michigan were you? Like,
We got sober in Ann Arbor.
okay.
And
Oh, yeah,
then
big
we
college
moved.
town.
But an even bigger college town is in East Lansing.
Oh, right.
I'm gonna just I went to.
Fucking shout it out.
No. It doesn't have to do with sobriety. It's fine. I went to a different school.
Yeah, I mean, we literally shouted out to Zyprexa, so you can.
That's fine. Yeah. You're good.
I
You're
went
clear.
to a different school, and so it wasn't the first time that we moved in sobriety, moving here, which I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for.
Yeah.
So we had that experience in Michigan, and that was even more of a forging, because one thing you may not think about unless you're of the same sex is like we can both go to women's meetings,
Yeah.
and so we could very easily become
and
enmeshed
have
and
the
like,
same friends.
yeah, and like get the same numbers. Like, oh, did you call this person? Oh, no, I didn't call this person. Oh, you should. Blah, blah. And Bethany set a boundary with me early on when we moved in Michigan the first time. She was like, "Look," and which
In
like
a kind way.
Look.
In a kind way.
maybe, but she was like,
Maybe.
either way, she was like, "Look, if you get phone numbers, you can't give them to me. Like
And we
I have to
sit
give them."
separately.
Yeah, we have to sit in separate places. We have to, it's a lot more. It was a lot more. What's the word? It was a lot more natural. Like coming here, like we knew what to do. We knew what to look for. We knew how to not become enmeshed. We knew like how to have separate sobrieties, but also have one that's together. But like come together as two, wholly full individuals rather than like two sick halves becoming like an even sicker whole.
Right. But I'm loving what you're saying, Katie, because even for two full individuals and two individuals work in recovery that are together, there is that process and there is that time of balancing that out. My wife and I, same story. It's like and in a way, we're still trying to find, because we don't get to spend that much time together. We definitely don't
Right.
get to spend time going to meetings together. So that's a super special time. But in the beginning, it worried me, because I think I was like, she was so laid back and cool with it, and I'm like, we both have to have our separate recovery. And I
Yeah.
came in with this fear of like, please don't be like my past relationships. Like there's this fear, so I was on the defensive. But
Same.
it does take a while to find, for the people in relationships and recovery, it takes a while to share a program or to work separate programs, sharing a life together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. This is some gold, man.
So, how long? You said 6 months. You were sponsoring.
Think
Beth?
about a year.
Oh no, it was over a year.
Oh, okay.
Like
No.
we went through a fifth step.
Because I went to 123 different sponsor, 123 different
Oh,
okay, that's
sponsor,
right.
and then Katie was my sponsor, and then she said one night as I was smoking a cigarette in the garage, she said, "It sounds," on the phone. I was talking to her on the phone. She said, sounds like to me that there's a different girl with you every other week," and I was like, I didn't want to hear that, right? So I stopped calling her.
That's it.
Yeah. So I didn't even say hi to her at meetings. I avoided her,
Love it.
Yeah.
and I found a different sponsor
Forgot about
Immediately.
because I didn't like.
You
what
didn't
she
want to
had.
hear that.
No.
Yeah. Holy shit.
that. I want to hear that truth bomb.
Yeah.
But you have had worked the fifth step with her.
No,
You've
not
made,
not
no,
Not
you have,
at that time.
Yeah.
Not at that time. Okay.
That was in
She's
the
still doing
beginning.
one,
Yeah, and then I had several other sponsors, and then one of my old sponsee sisters, she suggested that I ask Katie again to be my sponsor. So then I was like, okay. So then I go ask her, and then so we skipped and went to the fourth step
Good for you.
and fifth step.
Yeah.
Love it.
But then after that, I asked somebody else to be my sponsor, because right about that time is when I had the aha moment, like, oh, I still do have feelings for her.
It's fascinating. Like the whole. I'm just like yeah. I'm like thinking about like that. Just like the whole transition. Like and then keeping. Because I guess I mean I don't have like too much experience like dating in the rooms and stuff and having like relationships with other people in recovery to then look at like how do you not like just come at each other with like program stuff all the time? Just get so annoyed. Like someone can be just like watching your program or something, being like, "Oh, you decided not to go to the meeting tonight, huh?" Or like you know what I mean? Like they're totally like in tune.
What'd you
It can't
say?
be. It doesn't last.
Right? No, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It's not-
I
yeah,
it's
it's
a good
not.
point, though, because
I
it
just think
usually
about that
starts-
stuff
yeah.
because it's like, you know,
Not to
I
start
mean,
like that. I mean, that's how we are as friends, let alone if we're,
Yeah.
husband,
Yeah.
wife,
But I mean-
wife, I mean, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, my wife and I started, I'm sure she's looked at me a couple times, and it's like, your ass needs to go to a meeting.
Yeah.
Bethany's really good at like setting boundaries though. Like I have a tendency to take care of people and Bethany's has a tendency to just be like, don't take care of me. And
Yeah.
so we like balance each other out in
Yeah.
that way. And so she'll be able to say things like I don't want to talk to you about that, or I don't
Yeah.
feel comfortable telling you that. And I'm offended at first, and then I get over it, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, that was a good boundary. Okay.
yeah, I think that's
things
really
like-
cool because then it's like you can really like to be able to understand like that recovery piece. I think can be, like in a relationship to have like that to just know where someone else is coming from with that
But
to a point can
that
be awesome.
too. Were you gonna say something?
go for it.
I was gonna say all of that was like the transitioning, at least on my side of the relationship, all of the transitioning was done with a sponsor who I was calling at least every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, how do I not fall into bed with this woman?
Right.
How do I be a friend? What does being a friend look like?
Right.
Like I realized that I was trying to do that in the previous relationship, but didn't know how to ask those questions or was too prideful to ask those questions. And so this sponsor that I had, which was my fifth, and I still have the same sponsor today, which was like 9 years ago. I asked her, like, tell me, please, like, can you tell me what I'm supposed to do every day? Like, what does that mean? She's like, don't be alone with her in the same room. Like, make sure you go to things together, like, with other people. So basically, we had chaperones.
Yeah, it was healthy.
Shout out
very
to
healthy.
chaperones.
Yeah. And that way you can't put on the mask, because you're around people that know you and like
Right.
you can kind of, be a little more real because you don't, one-on-one you can kind of,
Well, there's
accountability. yeah.
Yeah.
Is that,
Chris, your mic
I
is
think
busted
your mic
again.
is out again.
what is up with that?
I mean, it's a
I
good
think I'm
point
back,
you
I'm
make.
back, I'm
It's a
back.
good point you make, Katie, about like probably left to your own devices, there would have been issues.
I don't think it would
At
have
best.
worked.
Yeah, right.
Honestly,
Right,
it would
like-
not have worked without the
Yeah.
village that's teaching me how to live.
Yeah, counsel, man, that's such a big thing.
So
where,
big.
where we're at.
Yeah.
So big. Because I mean, and in a way we talk about. It gets a lot of slack sometimes because we're like, don't give advice and it's unsolicited and all that. And I get it. Like we're there to get, in recovery period. Whether you're working with somebody in AA, working with somebody wherever, whatever program, sponsors are normally people that really want to show you the path that they took. Right? They are not supposed to give you relationship advice or money advice and this, that. And that. But I received some and it worked for me. I needed it, so.
I think it depends how it's given.
And it depends who's
From
giving
their
it.
experience,
And it depends
too.
who's giving it, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, my
Yeah.
sponsor never tells me like how to be a gay woman in a relationship with another woman. She's just like, I have no experience with that. Like, I can't answer that for you.
Right. And she looks at it from a relationship standpoint. It doesn't matter what,
And she
yeah.
usually says, in my experience.
Right.
This is what's happened with me. In my experience. And when she says it from that, it's just like, okay, well, that's what you did. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll try that. And she's like, oh, great idea you came up with by yourself.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
So we went from sponsorship to friends, but liked each other, friends. But it was healthy because we had other people around constantly. It was never just her and I together.
You slip a hickey or two in there? during
Never.
the-
No,
Friendship
wanted
tip?
to.
Hickey. Classic.
Nothing.
Shout out to Hickeys.
Yes.
You just made Devin's day.
Oh
with
my
that silly little
gosh.
comment.
Oh my gosh. I
then
think we might have
Katie-
found our intro.
Katie, that's awesome. Katie asked me to be her girlfriend.
Oh, yeah. And then she said no.
What?
The drama ensues.
Yeah.
And I had to make sure I really liked her. So a week later, I asked her to be my girlfriend. Because because in the past,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you're hot, let's
Right.
go. You know?
Yeah.
And so I always thought she was attractive, but I had to make sure that I liked her more than her looks,
Yeah.
you know? And it took me a week later.
Took you a week.
Did either one of you
That's
think
an
I'm
intense week.
Did you either one of you think I'm gonna marry this one?
I did.
No.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Not immediately. Not immediately, but after like, man, your poor Mike. After however much time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought I was just like, oh, I could be happy like forever with her,
Mm-hmm.
easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't want to get married, ever.
Which I didn't know until we actually started talking about it.
That
Which
was putting
caused-
the ring around her finger.
Yeah, when we really started talking, because we would be like, will you marry me, honey? Will you marry me, honey? And we were like, oh, yeah. And then we were just like, hey, you know, maybe we, like, should get married, because I want to. And then Bethany was just like, what?
Commitment.
Like, whoa. I was really scared that we weren't going to work out. And I was very sure at one point that, like, we were not going to work out. And thankfully, like, after talking to my sponsor and talking to a couple more people, they were just like, don't grieve your relationship yet. Like, you're still in it.
Yeah. Don't plan it ahead.
And so I've been through plenty of stuff.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
What I really like. Here we go. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. What I really like is this balance that you guys have of making sure that both of you are taking into consideration if this is the right decision. Like, it sounds like you've sort of had that on and off for like throughout your whole relationship. Both of you have checked in either with your sponsor or like your inner self and like been like, is this something that I want to do? And I feel like that's something that's really healthy. Like, that's amazing, you know?
I mean, when you put it like that, it sounds pretty cool. But, like, it's all other people. I mean, at least I'm not taking credit for it. Maybe Bethany would, but I'm not.
Yeah.
But it's like anything healthy, honestly, I can't do by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I just really think that it's like a lot of other people being like, yeah, it's a bad idea, don't do it. And I'll be like, yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, it's a good idea. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, following direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on?
Yeah, what are
I didn't
some of
have
these
anything.
other zingers?
By the way,
Zingers
you guys can feel
have?
free to also to, and I
Yeah.
didn't tell you that before the show, but feel free to talk to us and ask us questions and stuff too if you feel like it. But
Yeah.
just saying, you guys' story is so interesting and different that we're like totally Q&Aing this thing. But usually this podcast is like a dialogue and a conversation.
Okay.
So sorry
Okay.
I didn't tell you that little piece beforehand. But yeah.
So I'll get my brain going.
Yeah, no problem. I just don't want to put all your pressure on you, but go for it, Chris.
The other part of your story that I'm really interested in is your not transfer, but your
Transition?
yeah, your transition from transformations. Yeah, the like you got sober in Michigan, and I'm sure the recovery, like 12 steps are still 12 steps in Michigan as it is in Northern Virginia and Maryland. But like, what were some of the things that when you came here were hard for you to sort of adjust to, and what are some of the challenges that you guys have had moving here?
Yeah, what are some of the things that Michigan did so much better than Northern
Right.
Virginia?
Well, first they had 3-quarter houses, so
Ain't that the truth? Talk about one-upping me.
yeah.
Oop, oop. You want to go?
Serenity prayer before the meeting. No halftime.
Oh, we're talking Michigan right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Love it.
Well-
he needs halftime.
Yeah, like halftime. I was just like, what the hell is this?
Such a
football
momentum
game?
killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I
Got
thought
a
too.
really good momentum.
So there's
here,
no
and they're
halftime
just
Michigan.
gonna
You're saying that Michigan.
poop
right?
on it.
No, there's no, and not unless you're watching football. Like there's no
Yeah.
or soccer.
I was like, what is
There's no-
halftime?
Yeah. We're like, what the fuck is halftime?
So when is your treasury? When is business conducted in a meeting, in your recovery meetings in Michigan?
All depends on the meeting, but sometimes it's done. Like some people,
Right away.
some meetings in Detroit take that like 5-minute break or like 15-minute break, smoke break or whatever. But yeah, I guess
So
Yeah.
minor things, huh?
I feel like there was a bigger one. Like the Lord's Prayer is used a lot more here, it seems, than it was in Michigan. But it also depends. Like in Ann Arbor, it's very different too. They had something in East Lansing, or in the Lansing area. They had something called like, oh, does anybody want to check anyone in? And when we first moved to East Lansing, I was like, what is this?
Yeah, what is that?
This is a
Facebook
bunch of
check-in?
bullshit.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I'd like
sorry,
to check
touch your-
Devin here. It was just
touch
came
your
in
finger
yesterday.
there.
Yeah, I like to vouch for Devin.
Yeah, I'm checking you in.
Yeah.
I'm checking you in, pal.
Right.
'Cause
Yeah,
you
it's
two-
to be accountable.
yeah.
To be like, hey, I'm not gonna make it. Can you,
Can you
check, me in?
And I didn't see it as that.
Like a proxy. You're a
Yeah.
proxy.
Yeah, of like, hey, I'm not just skipping out and getting
Oh, they
drunk
will
this
eat
meeting.
you alive if you do that in Northern Virginia.
my
I'll tell you
gosh.
that right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, they would have in Ann Arbor too, because I was like, and I was basically like eating people alive because I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is not inappropriate for a meeting. Like, don't they know how to do it? And my sponsor was like, you should tell them how they should do it. No, she didn't say that.
Oh,
She
I
was
would
just
hate
like,
checking somebody
Oh my
in.
God.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
not
Chris
checking
is
you.
not going to be into this son of a bitch. I tell you what, man. You know what? Don't get me started. He's just not going to be in. That's
Yeah.
all. So it's
no, it was weird.
interesting. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
But I was honestly surprised of like the separation between, like I feel like all gays either live in DC or Arlington, McLean, and
That's-
like there are like very few gays.
Pretty
in
accurate.
This
There
area.
are not gay meetings in
Pretty
our
accurate.
area,
Pretty
which
accurate.
Katie and I have talked about creating one.
In Arlington and DC, there are.
Yeah.
That's what they're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But besides
Just
those
not-
two, yeah.
There's an
Interesting.
awesome one, that we've been to in DC. It was really cool to see so many lesbians in one place. Like that was nice. I was like, oh my god, all these ladies are sober. No, but they started talking about things like my wife's pregnant, and she started crying, and I was like, oh my god, that's not just like, oops, my wife's pregnant. This is
Right.
like we've engineered this kid, and that's like a big deal because
Totally.
we've talked about that, and it's
Totally.
just kind of like. I understand what that means for you because that means you paid like $600 to $900 for the vial that maybe that took on the first try and maybe that didn't.
Wow.
Or like maybe you paid
And-
$40,000
Right,
to like
and-
get that.
Right. And
done.
I'm working with somebody right now who's going through that. And like her vocab alone, Katie, I just like when she's talking, because we're really hitting it off. I love her.
Yeah.
And her and her wife, her wife got pregnant completely. She was telling me about the process of it and everything, and I'm just like, wow, this is another complete different world.
I know. It's
So
it's a different
It's-
dimension.
yeah, and for you, it's
Yeah.
got to be like, oh, they're here, they're alive.
And in Michigan, I went to at least 2 meetings that were gay on a regular basis.
Like weekly, right?
Yeah. And here, it's like, if I go to one, it's like 45, a half an hour away. You know?
Yeah.
That
So
sucks.
it's
Ever
all
been
like-
in a gay meeting where somebody
crazy.
stumbled in drunk, not knowing it's an AA meeting? Like, like that would be the best, I would think. The best. I just immediately imagine that guy that stumbled in a meeting and he's just like, oh, fuck it, I'm staying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you guys do start one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you're led to that, if you guys are like feeling like you're led to it, I think that'd be awesome.
I feel like surprisingly it was bringing up some stuff for me that I was not ready to even look at because I was thinking about like, okay, so if we start this thing, then we're gonna like start going around to different meetings and like when they ask for, related announcements, like
Right.
they're gonna ask for, and I'm like, okay, so there's a new meeting starting. It's a gay meeting or it's an LGBT meeting, and then I was like, oh my god, but then everybody's gonna know that I'm gay, and I was like, where the fuck is this coming from? Like I'm very like I don't yell from the rooftops that I'm gay, but like I'm pretty sure that a lot of people can tell when they meet me, and maybe they can't, but like. Well, at least other gay women are like, yeah, you're very gay. But like,
Very gay.
Well, I was
Other
able
people-
to tell Katie when you introduced me to your wife, Bethany.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, is that the clue?
Yeah. Yeah. I was
You're
about
like,
to say the same thing. I'm like, well, I mean,
I could tell.
Wait, wife
here's
as
my
in
wife. yeah.
Not as in like sister wives, right?
Yeah.
You guys, they're totally like in love. I love that. Yeah, immediately.
This is so fascinating to me, like how many people we have in this area, and there's not.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even. I mean, I didn't even realize that. I mean,
No,
I
Devin,
guess
I meet.
it's like blowing my mind right now. I'm
I meet
thinking
newly
about that.
sober
Like
people.
it's really only in DC and Arlington.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Nothing in Ashburn. Nothing in Reston.
No, isn't that
Good one.
I've
No.
met people at
I know. I mean-
Arlington
I didn't
one
mean to
because
laugh at you.
a day. There's one in Arlington that I
Yeah.
used to go to.
Yeah.
And person would travel all the way to, were they in?
Leesburg.
I don't know. They were far. Like
Yeah.
the one that starts with a W.
Winchester?
No.
Warrenton?
Anyway,
Warrenton?
it doesn't matter.
Waldorf.
But anyway,
far
Woodbridge.
as
really
far as shit.
far.
Let's see.
Woodbridge.
You know.
FAF.
Wow.
Yeah.
Waldorf.
Because there
FAF.
isn't. That's the closest one. You know.
It's just
Devin,
unbelievable.
at work, when I meet people, newly sober people, and happen to be gay, I don't know what to tell them.
Right.
It's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can tell that
Why?
whatever
What do you
comes
mean?
out of my mouth, if I don't have a meeting set up for you,
Yeah.
you're not going to listen to what I have to say. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not like, well, well, as a man, maybe you should go try out the Stepping
Right.
Stones and, let's try those
Yeah.
guys. And it's a men's group. And I'm getting the look like, you didn't hear what I just said. And so I think it's one of those important things that I hope, I'm with Chris, I hope it's a calling. And I hope that it kind of flourishes if it's meant to.
So you
because
got
it's
a lot of
needed.
new people
Mm-hmm.
wanting gay meetings and not knowing where to go. Is that correct?
Yeah, because there aren't any in the area.
Yeah.
I mean, when you open the
The meeting book.
Yeah.
the meeting book,
Where
right?
and
The
when?
where and when. Do they have the codes for each meeting on the first page?
Yeah.
Does that specify if they're gay meetings?
Well, sometimes it does, but sometimes the codes are different. Sometimes it's like LGBT. Sometimes it's G for gay.
Right,
Sometimes
exactly.
same
Yeah,
thing.
they
So-
haven't. They
So is
haven't
this like a men's gay
consolidated
meeting,
them
or
all
is-
yet. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think it's. I think it's a big deal, and I think it's needed because not all gay people live in Arlington. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like there's
Clearly,
Come on now.
yeah.
And of course, straight people are all welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You'd make it as such if you were running it, and you had to put down the
I think so. Yeah.
the rules of the land or
Right.
the
Yeah,
laws of
man.
the land.
Yeah. It's
Another
about
one-
the primary purpose.
And I was thinking, there was one guy who we had come to our home group for a while. He was pretty consistent coming,
Yes.
and he was, I think he felt at home at our men's meeting
Yeah.
for a while
Yeah.
while he was sober, and then he went, and then he stopped coming to AA just
Yeah.
in general. But
Yeah. Yeah, and I've met a few gay men that felt pretty comfortable in the way that they were welcome to men's meetings. And the issues, exactly what Katie said in the beginning, Katie, when you said, like, women, I needed to have a woman as a sponsor so I could look in the mirror.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, I think, for men that are serious about recovery. It's like, look,
Yeah.
man, I'm bringing you issues here about
Right.
Yeah.
the same thing that you go through.
Right.
It's just that, I mean, I'll tell you, as you guys were talking, I was thinking to myself, like, having grown up in the Middle East,
Right.
like, it would be ridiculous if there's a meeting for people from, the Middle East. But fuck, man. Like, if there's this, if there's memory bubbles or whatever, or like the way you approach life if you've gone through a war-torn country. And
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm hearing
Yeah.
those shares, man, I'm feeling something that otherwise would not be, I wouldn't hear.
Yep.
Well,
So-
and I remember Bethany starting to talk about this as something needed because she heard people talking about a need for it. I mean, and I've talked to my sponsor about this because we helped start meetings back in Michigan too, and it was just like, you start the ones where there's a need, not because like, I want to do things my way and I have a resentment in a coffee pot. Like,
Those are the only successful ones, Katie, I think. The
And-
ones that
and
there's,
so if there is
I'm not
one-
doing it for me, I'm doing it for either us or something
yeah.
else.
And so part of me was just kind of like, well, I don't know, is there a need for gay meetings? And then like people come into, Bethany's home group and they're just like, are there any gay people in Reston? I was like, yeah, I'm gay. This is my wife. Like, but he was really having a hard time. He still is kind of having a hard time, but he was very interested in starting a gay meeting here
Yeah.
and just like being involved in that. And it's just kind of like, hey, that's three of us. Like, we may not be able to pay for whatever church, but we can certainly figure out what we are able to do. And, we'll always bring coffee because that's needed. Come on.
Gotta have it.
But, yeah.
Gotta have it.
But,
I
I mean,
mean,
it's a need still because
Yeah.
some people don't have the kind of, some people don't have an awesome coming out story. And some people are moving to this area because they don't have anywhere else to go. And so if they happen to be like struggling with drugs and alcohol, it's just like, where can I see more of my people?
yep.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, if I go to an AA meeting, then like I can find this or I can find that, and or maybe I can't.
Yeah,
and we want to offer something.
when I was new too, and sometimes I still do, like struggle with sexuality and if it's wrong, stuff like that, just because of my upbringing. And so that's why I really love being around people that are like me, drunks and addicts, you know, and common solution. And I just hear them struggling with the same thing, but also finding a solution, because that's how I grow spiritually. Is I'm involved in people that I can totally relate to on all different aspects, and it just, I don't know, does
Yeah, it's
something to-
powerful.
Shows
Yeah.
up that hope. Yeah.
And we're lucky to live in such a diverse area here that I mean there's I think in Falls Church there's a Farsi speaking AA meeting
I
or
think
NA
I saw
meeting.
that. Yeah.
So you have all these different special, and then you hear about these sort of secret, like lawyers only meetings in
Yeah.
DC or lobbyists only meetings. There's supposedly a meeting in the Capitol building somewhere, you know, a congressman.
Yeah, there is still in some like their breakfast room or something.
Yeah.
It's one of the longest. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make shit up. So there is
No,
a meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like all these, you know, we have the ability to, you know, come together in different subsets while also keeping in mind the bigger picture, which is that the only requirement.
Right, and the singleness of purpose, and,
Right.
and I would agree with that too, because I think that coming in there with like exactly what Beth said, I loved it. Coming in there with a common problem is good enough to help us come together, and I think there's many times what binds us, what keeps us together, is you know, really like a common story and a common thread, and then
Yeah.
living the common solution,
Yeah.
and it keeps us binded. You know what I mean? Because it's needed. It's
Yeah.
important. I'm gonna keep pushing you to start it, Beth. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna be that asshole.
Yeah, I need
But
the push.
if there's anything,
better than me
Because
doing
I'm really good at talking.
You're so good at talking.
I'll speak for the guys because I feel both of them. If there's anything we can do, let us know
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
to
you.
help you with it.
Yeah.
You know, and I speak on behalf of those guys.
I did want to say something because you were
Thank you,
talking
Sarah.
about the common solution.
My
Love
proxy.
those girls.
That's a Michigan move he just did. Yeah, he just checked us in.
Check Devin in, yeah.
That's a
Checking
Lansing
Devin in, checking
thing.
Chris in. It's a Lansing move.
Yeah. No, but that
Straight
I mean,
Lancer.
I had nice. I like that.
Is that a thing? Anyways.
An East Lancer.
Lancer.
Yeah.
An East
Lancer.
Lancer. You got East Lanced.
What were you gonna say?
There was a question I had for my sponsor at one point that said something like, okay, so if we have one single purpose and we're not affiliated with any other thing, like how can we have men's meetings? How can we have women's meetings? How can we have gay meetings? How can we have all this? And she's like, it's got to be up to the meeting to decide. But if you turn anyone away with no, at least from what she said and how I understood what she said,
Yeah.
what I got out of it is that, in my understanding, is that if I turn anyone away from a meeting without giving them some other meeting to go to, a ride, or any other option, that is now not in an AA meeting.
It's not okay, right?
Because I'm now saying like you
There
You can't.
are other requirements.
right. All
yeah.
of a sudden there's a different requirement for membership.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
can still hear me.
That's
Like,
a whole nother
all of a sudden-
can of worms,
Right.
that
And,
topic.
and so
Yeah.
like because we've talked about this, like, oh, we should say, you know, like show up for a gay AA meeting and like, well, what if straight people show up? Like, yeah, straight people are going to show up. We'd like it to be open for everyone, and like with a flair of like LGBT, so that it becomes a safe place.
Yeah.
But like, let's say a meeting grows to a certain point and most members are just like, you know what, I would like to offer for the straight people to go to a different meeting. Then like, if that's what the meeting wants, because the meeting isn't like anyone's,
Right.
at least in my experience, a healthy meeting is its own entity. It's like, if that meeting now wants to only really invite LGBT people, then like that's what the meeting's gonna do. And if there's a need for that, then it'll continue. And if there's not, like it'll die. And it's not, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, usually all these things work themselves out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the person who shows up on Monday and seriously loves it and falls in love with it, they don't happen to be gay, they'll come back. They usually won't, because they will respect what the meeting stands for itself. So there'll still be like a common ground, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there's a meeting in Ann Arbor that's on a Friday night, and I think it started out as a small gay meeting, and it's just like it's basically just like a young people's meeting now. I mean, because so many people.
But then the gay people, it became my home group. The gay people that were regulars there, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna create a different meeting." So then they created a different
I didn't realize that.
meeting. I won't tell you the name or anything. And yeah, and it was a strong, awesome, smaller. Majority of them were women, but that became my home group.
Oh yeah.
So
Cool.
if you know, you can always create it your own.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We love having you guys on the show. All right, well, thanks, you guys. We got to seal up the deal.
Yeah.
It's
Sealing
that
it.
time.
Sober Pod launching off.